covers change with the times, and what was popular 5 years ago is no longer working today. So in this video, I'm gonna break down how book covers have changed over the past 20 years and what you need to do to stay competitive in 2025. But very quickly before we get started, this video is sponsored by 99 Designs by Vista. 99 Designs is a global graphic design company that can connect you to freelancers across the world, including book cover designers. I personally use them to design my book covers, which is why I was really excited that they were interested in partnering with me on this video. I found my cover designer through 99 Designs. She designed that cover over there, this one, along with, 6 other book covers for me. And 7 other book covers for me, actually. I absolutely love working with her. She's unbelievable. She's so responsive. She will also be so patient with me if I change my mind about like the font 17 times. She will just change the font 17 times and give me unlimited revisions, which is very kind of her. I was really excited about this opportunity because 99 Designs analyzed the book covers of over 700, I think 701 New York Times bestsellers between the year 2000 to now to figure out what was working on cover designs and what was not. I made a video last week sharing all of the most actionable things that I'm taking away from this data and applying to my next book cover, but this video is going to be mostly focused on the history and like how the covers have changed during different periods throughout the past 20 years. So I find this information very interesting. It's not going to be focused as much on actionable tips, but I wanted to share it because I thought that you also might find it interesting. So first, why do book covers change? Changes in book cover trends reflect cultural anxiety, technological changes, and changes in how readers discover books. Over the past 20 years, we've seen a huge change in how people are actually discovering what they read. It used to be the case that bookstores were the main place that people went to buy books and the main place that they discovered books. But then when Amazon came out and we had the rise of self-publishing, a lot more things started happening online. Instagram became a huge driver of book discoverability, and now we have TikTok. I've found that when trying to reach readers, you have a couple of different tiers of different types of readers, and once you're able to crack into the top tier of readers, you know that you've had an incredibly successful book. The first readers that you'll probably be reaching are the people that devour books, that read tons and tons of books every year, that they're your early adopters, the ones that don't care that you're an indie author who doesn't have any other books published. They rip through so many books. They're going to take a chance on your book and they're just going to tear through it. And then you have the people that are kind of a little bit on the fence about it. Like they don't read as much. They would prefer to see that you have some reviews. They would prefer to like maybe, have your book recommended to them. And they are still avid readers, but they're not as interested as the early adopters and not as open. And then your kind of last top tier of readers are the people that really rarely read or only read what everybody is talking about. And if you're able to crack into that, and if your book is able to be the thing that everyone else is talking about, then you know that you've like gotten something very successful. But in order to become this, you first need to be able to have a very solid base of your kind of early adopter readers. And those readers read a lot, and they're very in tune to trying to figure out what kind of books they're gonna like. Because they read so much, they see a ton of book covers, and they naturally compare your book cover that they're now seeing to other book covers that they've seen before to try to figure out whether it fits in or sounds like something that they're going to enjoy. So that means that your book cover has to be similar to the books that reader is enjoying. And that is why it is so important for you to stay current with the current cover trends so that your book looks not like it's from a different era or a different decade, but something that is relevant now. So now I'm going to break down the past 20 years with different events and talk a little bit about what covers we're doing and how they changed between each time period. Which brings us back to 2000 to 2003, where we see the effects of 9/11 and the rise of the thriller. Thrillers rose from being only 27% of the bestsellers in 2001 to 41% in 2003. I personally love reading thrillers because I love having the sense of a thrill or an emergency or that feeling of reading something and my heart's beating really quickly, but with the knowledge that everything is going to work out okay in the end. The bad guys are going to get defeated and my hero is going to save the day. There is built-in comfort to reading a thriller where you are able to experience the terror, but everything works out okay. This feeling was very likely sought after in that time period. Black and red were the most used colors. Over 50% of covers used them between 2002 and 2003. And the usage of white on thriller covers also surged. It went from being used on 45% of thriller covers in 2001 to 92% in 2002. So now if we move ahead in time a little bit, in the period of 2004 to 2010. This was a period that had a lot of instability in it. We saw the war on terror and the financial crisis. People tended to want more predictability and clarity in this time of instability. Thrillers actually peaked in 2006 and took up 61% of the bestseller list. This is the highest that they've been in this 20-year period. They're gonna dive off after this. Black and red remained the dominant colors. Even surging in popularity, they were being used even more than they were before. And this is where we really saw the rise of minimalist, no-nonsense, like sans serif fonts on thriller covers. You know those like really bold titles that are really popular on thrillers nowadays, like the ones on my original Day Stay titles. You have like the big white blocky letters. This is the time that those really started to rise. The usage of sans serif jumped to 66% of all of the bestsellers by the year 2010. If you are a crime or thriller author, you still want to look at this time period for your thriller cover inspiration. This is when the template of the general thriller cover really started to emerge, and this is what readers still turn to and expect when reading a thriller, especially in adult thrillers. If you write for adults, they were also probably reading thrillers in this time period, and so this is the format that they still come to expect. Now moving ahead a little bit to 2011 to 2015, this is where we really saw the rise of Instagram. When Instagram launched, photography became a dominant medium in book covers. Photographic book covers peaked in 2012 and were 68% of the entire bestseller list. Titles in this period also got bigger. Sans serif became the new normal, but, spoiler alert, photography is not dominant anymore in book covers, so you don't want to be using photography anymore. Photography is going to make your book look outdated and look like it belongs in that 2012 to 2015 era. The genres where you can still get away with using photography are in some thrillers and also in some literary fiction. But if you do choose to use photography, make sure that you keep your photos looking very modern. High contrast, crisp lighting, and very clear focal points. You don't want it to look dated. But romance and fantasy should not be using photography anymore. You should not use realistic photos if you're writing either one of these two genres, but I'll get to that more later and explain why. So now we're moving ahead a little bit to 2016 to 2019, where we had a lot of polarization and a surprising return to minimalism in cover design. The political division following the 2016 election led to more dark color palettes becoming more popular again. One interesting thing that the data pointed out is that the usage of red spiked after the 2016 election. It went up 8%. And the usage of blue actually dropped. It went from 54% of the best-selling covers to only 38%. During this era, photography was still strong, like a lot of covers were still using photography. 63% of all the 2019 best-selling covers used photography. But this is where it really began to solidify, like that certain colors were associated with certain genres. Like red became a staple of the thriller genre, and blue wasn't used on thrillers as much. It was more calming and used and seen a lot more in literary fiction. Photography started to really only be paired with very minimalist text because otherwise the covers started looking too busy. So now we're moving ahead to 2020 to 2022, which is when we had the pandemic and which featured a lot of very calm colors and escapism. Readers really wanted to escape their reality and they really wanted calm colors. They didn't want to read about pandemics and they didn't want to read about anything really dark. I remember from the time, this is not covered in the data, but I remember talking to another author about how their series that they'd written, like a post-apocalyptic pandemic fiction, had just nosedived. Nobody wanted to read it because they were actually living it. The white exploded on book covers. It jumped up to being like 79% of the list by 2022. Blue also climbed to taking up 62% of the list, and the usage of green on 99 Designs also really grew. Because this was so recent, If you write literary fiction and memoir, these colors are still your main palette for your cover. Like whites, greens, blues, these calming colors signify to readers that that's the kind of experience they're gonna get by reading your book. You wanna use those colors to convey soothing or introspective reads. This time period also really introduced minimalism, and you featured and rewarded covers that had less going on in them than other covers. So then moving forward a little bit more into the time period we're in now, which is 2023 to 2025. This is when BookTok really started to reshape cover design. There was a massive genre shift when BookTok started dominating the market. Romantasy jumped from being 18% of the bestseller list to 42% by 2024. Fantasy climbed from 7% to 21%. Romance climbed from 11% to 21%. Surprisingly, pink became the color of the moment. I couldn't figure out if this had anything to do with the Barbie movie. I feel like everything was pink in 2023, but the usage of pink between 2021 and 2023 climbed 260%. That is insane. I did not know that until I read this data. Also, a huge change in this time period was that romance abandoned photography altogether. In 2023, 50% of romance covers were illustrated. In 2024, that number climbed to 71%, and by 2025, that number is now 100%. All romance covers are illustrated on the bestseller list. There are a bunch of reasons why this is. BookTok favors the bold. They favor covers that are bright, that are eye-grabbing, that make someone stop scrolling and actually pay attention. You want high contrast, high emotion covers that really pop in very small boxes. So if you are writing romance in 2025, you must have an illustrated cover. The illustrations can take a bunch of different forms, but photography now makes your book look outdated and isn't being used. If you're writing fantasy, using high contrast, a very strong symbol, probably some dragons, celestial motifs, that's gonna signal to readers that you're writing a fantasy. And if you're writing anything that you're hoping to market on TikTok, go watch my other video where I really break down how I'm going to be using this data to inform my cover design process, because in that video I go way more in depth into the actionable tips for designing your cover in 2025. But if you are planning to market your book on TikTok, you must go for bold, bright colors, like an object or some sort of symbol that represents your cover, no photography. So what does all of this information mean for you? To make your book cover convert in 2025, these are the 5 things that you need to focus on. The first is that you need to understand your genre in 2025. The main 4 genres that were covered in the data were thrillers, fantasy or romantasy, literary fiction and memoir, or romance. And the main trends for those 4 genres is that romance has to be illustration, fantasy should also be illustration or a very bright, memorable symbol or motif. The color palette for thrillers is still black, red, and white, and minimalism is doing better nowadays. And for literary fiction or memoir, you still want very clean, calming color palettes. The second thing is that your typography must be readable in a very small thumbnail. Most people are discovering books online nowadays, and you want your title to pop. You should test your cover image in a very small box, like test it at like 150 pixels and see if your title still pops. If it does, if it's readable, that's good. If it doesn't, redesign it. The third thing is use colors strategically. Understand what colors readers expect. For the calm genres, you want whites, blues, and greens. For high intensity genres, black and red and white, still your go-tos. For romance, pinks are still very popular, and for romantasies, it's a lot of purple, pink, and gold. These are not rules across the board. You will find exceptions to these all over the place. This is just to give you a place to start with what is now very popular. The fourth thing is you should put your cover through a 3-second test. Have your cover on your phone and just start showing it to people and ask them what they think the book is about. Hold it up for 3 seconds and then ask them. If they can't tell you that it's like, a fantasy book about dragons after 3 seconds, you are doing something wrong. They need to be able to tell your genre and tone literally that quickly for it to be able to hold and capture their attention. And the fifth thing that I really want to drive home is that it's important not to design based on your tastes, but design based on what is happening with the cover trends and what readers expect from your genre. I know that it sucks and I know that it's hard. I really hate cover design, and it is something that really stresses me out. And having a good cover designer is great, but it is ultimately on you to understand what readers expect from your genre, because your cover designer might not know the most up-to-date information about how genre expectations are changing. So do your research and try to be as clear with your cover designer as you possibly can be in order to get the best product. I highly recommend creating mock-ups of your covers and then testing them in front of potential readers and seeing which ones are most grabby, so that you can give that data to your cover designer and be like, this is what people are clicking on, I want to move in this direction. Because guessing about what generally looks good is not going to help sell your book. It has to be more involved. But that is it for this video on how covers have changed over the past 20 years. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have a second, I'd be super grateful if you could take a minute to like this video and also subscribe to my channel. My name is Claire Fraze. I'm an award-winning author who makes videos sharing actionable writing tips that helped me make my own writing better. I'm the author of the 5-book paranormal thriller They Stay series, including a series that I'm going to launch next year about ghost hunters who hunt the ghosts of dead serial killers, which I'm super excited about and currently extremely stressed about because I have to design the cover in about a month. 99 Designs was kind enough to partner with me on a giveaway that I launched last week with last week's video, where I was giving away $500 of credits to use on their platform with any designer. I just picked the giveaway winner. I counted all of your entries, and then I used a random number generator to pick a random number, and I counted from the bottom all the way up to how many entries that was, and I got my mom. So sorry, Mom, you're not gonna win this one. So I spun another random number, and I got at Benny C 1990. Congratulations. Please email me at claire@clairefraze.com as soon as you see this, so that you can claim your prize and I can get you set up with 99 Designs to get the credit transferred over to your account and get all of everything sorted out. Thank you so much to everybody who entered the giveaway. I still have a discount code set up through 99 Designs if you're interested in booking a cover design or anything through them. I have a 30% off discount code that I'm going to copy in the description of this video. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic week, everybody. And as always, happy writing.